Perfect. And I will not repeat what Gabriella just said, but yes, me too. I was really hoping to see you in person. So unfortunately, we are still behind the screen. But fortunately, we're still behind the screen because I also know that some of you could not come tonight and you're able to join because we are behind the screen. So let's take this as a mixed blessing, but I look forward to the opportunity to seeing you on campus. Because as you know, we are delighted on campus to not only having such a thriving Italian program, Italian studies program, thanks to the vision of our benefactors, Joe and Dina Lamotta and Charlie and John Alberto, but also very beautiful Italian library, thanks to the Valente family. So the Valente Italian library is fascinating to me. Bill Connell here took me around and showed me some of the collection, and I'm truly fascinated for the support that we have received in the Italian studies programs. And I would like to also join in thanking the teachers that are teaching Italian and Italian literature and culture to our students. I'm also delighted that we're here celebrating the students and their awards, and those awards I know have been possible thanks to many other benefactors as well. And some of you are here tonight, so I would like to acknowledge Robert Tarte, Nas Paragano, Michael Catino, and La Signora Calluori that I believe are joining us tonight. And I want to recognize that there's been tremendous progress and growth in the through the generosity of many donors. So just in 13 years, we have more than doubled the amount of scholarships that are given to our students. And we're awarding 12 students, and of those 12 students, we have 8 scholarships, 6 of which are endowed. So it's a tremendous achievement, and I want to thank you for being here with us in the various events that I've also been able to join remotely, sometimes while I drive back to Brooklyn in the evening, given that your events are conveniently in the evening, but it's such a pleasure to interact with you and learn more about the Italian culture and how the American culture influences back the Italian culture. So I'm delighted to be here tonight and also share some exciting news about the university. I'm sure you've heard already, or hopefully you have seen our Inside the Hall publications. The university this year has been able to claim the largest numbers, not only of applicants, but also of students, the largest freshman class in the last 10 years. That we've had. We have a total of 1,689 freshmen on campus. And if you come to campus, you will see it's vibrating and exciting and full of students that are back on campus safely. Everyone is wearing their masks, but they're back on campus and making the campus alive again. It's an incredibly large class, but also a very good class. And while some of you might know that this year, due to COVID, we decided to welcome a class with test optional. So only 20% of our class is reporting SAT and ACT this class. If we look at the GPA, the grade point average of our class, this is once again one of the strongest classes that we've had so far, as well as one of the classes that is most diverse. So for example, I want to share with you that 33% of our students are Pell eligible, which is something that we're proud because our mission is education and making sure that we provide an education to all students, regardless of their means. And also 52.4% of the class identify as students of color. So it's an incredibly diverse class in ethnicity, cultural background, geography, which makes the campus much more exciting to be at. So I'm really grateful that we're all back together, and I look forward also to other opportunities to be together and celebrating the students, maybe with a meal. So I look forward to celebrating with you the students who are being awarded tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Passerini, for the introductory remarks. And now we're going to go into the heart of the scholarship. So as Dr. Passerini mentioned, we have indeed doubled the amount of money that we're giving out. I was just looking at the records. In 2011, we gave out about $30,000 in scholarships to our students. This year, we're giving $57,500. And consider that we have not had a study abroad last summer. We usually, with the Vecchio Endowed Scholarship, we also provide students with money to go to Italy in the summer. One student, Lucienne Gesualdo, was able, also thanks to the Calorie, the Dr. Ennio Calorie scholarship, she was able to go. So we have awarded 16 scholarships this year, and I am going to mention the names of the students who are awarded tonight, and I would like the students who are present to just identify yourself, to say, buonasera, buongiorno, whatever you would like to say, hello, ciao, so that your face comes up and people can see you on the video. So I'm going here in the order that I have on my piece of paper here, that I noted down the names. So the La Motta Scholarship, the La Motta Endowed Scholarship. This year we were able to award 4 La Motta scholarships, and the recipients are Lucienne Gesualdo, I think is here.
Hi, thank you so much for all the support you guys give to our organization. Thank you.
And then Lucienne will give a few words afterwards, but stand there, Lucienne, don't go anywhere. Matteo Almeida, who had a class and I believe is able to join us a little later, is a School of Diplomacy. So Lucienne is a senior at the Stillman School of Business, a major in accounting and minor in Italian. Matteo Almeida is a senior also at the College of Arts and Science, a major in political science and minor in Italian. Then we have Isabel Santiago Vega. Are you there, Isabel?
I am. Hello. Thank you so much.
And who is a junior at the School of Diplomacy, major in diplomacy, major in Italian, major in philosophy. And also Frederick Leo. I have not seen him. I'm not sure he's present. Frederick is a junior in the College of Arts and Science, major in philosophy and Italian. We also are awarding tonight 2 Columbia Foundation awards. One goes to Francesca Scola. Are you there, Francesca? Who is a junior in the College of Arts and Science and a major in biochemistry. And also Catherine Maticola. Are you there, Catherine? I think I saw you. Who is...
Buonasera, grazie per l'opportunità.
Catherine is a junior in the School of Business, a major in marketing and minor in Italian. I just saw Matteo coming in. Would you identify yourself, Matteo, recipient of the La Motta Scholarship? Would you say a word? Maybe it's not.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Matteo. I'm a senior here at Seton Hall. I'm a political science major and a criminal justice minor, and I'll also be declaring my minor in Italian because I will have graduated with enough credits. And I just want to say thank you to the donors. It's an extremely generous thing that they've allowed for me to do as a student here at Seton Hall, and it keeps me studying Italian, something I love doing academically. And I hope that studying Italian all these years will eventually one day, take me to Italy and explore the Italian world and culture more in depth. So I just want to say thank you again, and yep.
Thank you, Matteo. Then we have the Endowed Tart Scholarship that this year is going to be awarded to 2 students. One is Christian Pulowski, who is junior in the School of Diplomacy, and he just declared a minor in Italian.
Buonasera a tutti, thank you.
And Isabella Nicosia. Are you there, Isabella? Who is
Yes.
a junior in the College of Communication and the Arts and a major in communication.
Buonasera. Thank you for this opportunity.
We also have a scholarship from the Alberto Italian Studies, from the Alberto Institute. This is a merit scholarship to a student of any major or minor. And this year goes to Elizabeth Kula. I hope I'm pronouncing well your last name, who is a junior at the Stillman School of Business and a major in finance. Needless to say, all these students have very high GPA and overachieving students, great students in every possible way. Elizabeth, are you there? I thought I saw you.
Hi there. Hi, everyone. I'd just like to say thank you to the donors for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Liz. And we also have the Endowed Paragano Scholarship. This year goes to 4 students. Casey Wright, who is a junior of the School of Diplomacy, major in diplomacy and Italian. I thought Casey was not feeling well today for an upset stomach, but I don't know if she...
I'm here. Yeah, I wasn't feeling well earlier, but I'm here. I just wanted to say thank you. This really does help a lot with me coming to Seton Hall because I'm coming from across the country. So this really is a big help. So thank you very much.
Casey's from California. Hi, Casey. Then Kristen Mcguire, who is a sophomore and a major from the School of Diplomacy.
Buonasera, everyone. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity once again and for your continued support and generosity.
Also recipient of the Paragano Scholarship is Raymond Menoni, who is a senior major at School of Diplomacy and minor in Italian and economics.
Buonasera a tutti. Grazie mille. Thank you so much for the opportunity and the consideration. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Then last recipient of the Paragano is Pax Ardens, who I think is here, and he will speak also a few words in a moment. Pax, you're there, right? Yes, I see you.
Buonasera a tutti. I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm so grateful to be here.
And Pax is from a freshman in the College of Arts and Science and a major in biochemistry and soon a minor in Italian. Then we have the Rancati Endowed Scholarship that goes to Martin Tadrus. And Martin is a senior in the School of Diplomacy, a major in diplomacy. Martin, are you there? I think I saw you.
Sorry, my camera is just not working right now, but I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm very grateful for it. And yeah, just thanks a bunch.
The next is the Martin Pisilla Scholarship that this year goes to Olivia Franchi. Olivia is a junior in the College of Arts and Science, a major in history and Italian. Olivia, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. I want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And it's an incredibly generous award. And so I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.
And last but not least is the Calorie Scholarship. It's a study abroad scholarship. This gave the opportunity to Lucienne to spend a month in Italy, in Sorrento, among all places, and she'll tell us about that in a second. I want to really thank all our donors and say how proud I am of our students. Scholarships not only helps alleviate a little bit of the burden that unfortunately the education brings along. Education and college should bring enthusiasm, fun, getting smarter, but the reality is that it brings a lot of anxieties as well for all the money that it takes. And this helps enormously as students. And so we are really, really grateful to our benefactors. Also, I want to say how important it is also how the scholarship underlined the importance of Italian in our liberal arts college at Seton Hall. Obviously, all our students want to get a professional career when they come out of this, but it is important that they also explore the different opportunities that a liberal arts education provides them. And I have to say, we're going over Italian civilization, the Romans, medieval literature with the poets of the 12th century, and you think, what are you going to do with this stuff? Well, I hope my students will do a lot. And right now we are definitely, at least I am, having a lot of fun talking to them about it, and they have wonderful questions that they bring to class. So thanks everyone. And I want to pass now the screen, and I told them 3-4 minutes max, to Lucien Gesualdo and then Pax Ardens, who are just gonna tell us a little bit about their choice of Italian studies. Lucien, you go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucian Gesualdo, and this summer I was lucky enough to study in Sorrento, Italy, at the Sant'Anna Institute of Sorrento. And I would not have been able to do this without the support of the Calorie family. So thank you again. And also the support of the Kocha Foundation for helping the process. So thank you so much for this incredible opportunity. My experience was truly amazing, as I was able to study a language in its home country, and I was able to practice inside and outside of the classroom. I made new friends, and I learned about the Campania region, and I also explored the incredibly beautiful Amalfi Coast. As well as for my time there, I observed the buffalo mozzarella process at Pontere Farm. I visited the ancient city of Pompeii, learned about the woodworking tradition of Intarsia in Sorrento, and I observed the protected marine area of Iranto Bay in Massalubense. My trip was so significant to me because I learned so much and I gained more confidence in my speaking abilities of Italian. In the future, I hope to use these skills that I learned throughout my years in Italian class and from my trip to become basically a link between Italian tax laws and American tax laws in my career in accounting. So lastly, I would just like to thank all of the donors again for the support of the support of the Italian department that provides us with these amazing opportunities and lifelong skills. So thank you.
Grazie, Lucien. Pax, you got the screen now.
Yes, thank you. I just want to apologize that I'm taking the Zoom in my car. I didn't have time to make it home after my last class. But I first started learning Italian from my mother, who was born in Italy and then emigrated here when she was 10 years old. From a young age, I learned the language and also the culture, and I immediately fell in love with it, but didn't have the opportunity to start studying it in school until high school. When I did begin studying it, I loved reading and writing in Italian, and since then, I've had a passion for it. Now that I'm here at Seton Hall, I'm of course taking Italian again, and looking forward to getting involved in other Italian type activities here and elsewhere. Actually, today I declared my Italian minor, and I'm super grateful to have the opportunity to have done that with the support of the scholarship. And thank you to all the donors.
Okay, great. Now we continue our program with our speaker tonight, who is Dr. Passerini. Just to give you a little bit of background, Dr. Passerini joined Seton Hall in the summer of 2020, a year that we'll never forget, I think. But as a provost and executive vice president of Seton Hall, as all of you know. Prior to Seton Hall, Dr. Passerini was the Leslie H. and William Collins Distinguished Chair and Dean of the Collins College of Professional Studies at St. John University, where she was also Professor of Computer Science, Mathematics, and Science. Before that, she worked at NJIT, where she served as the Dean of the Albert Dorman Honors College. And Also, before that, years before that, Dr. Passerini studied in Italy. She's a Roman. Like me, it's nice to know that there is another Roman on campus. She holds a degree in political science from Luis University of Rome in Italy, and in economics from the University of Roma Tre, Tor Vergata in Rome. She also has an MBA and a PhD degree from George Washington University, and a certificate in business project management from NYU. She was a Fulbright student scholar and a Fulbright administrator scholar. And I always tell my students what a wonderful opportunity, the Fulbright. And here at Seton Hall, we've been actually very lucky. Many of our students have received it over the years, and I hope that many of you will apply as well. Just as a final note, more recently, Dr. Passerini was featured by the Italian Cultural Institute of New York and appeared in one of the New York stories of success in this platform called Stanze Italiane, and I encourage all of you to go and on their website of the Italian Cultural Institute and browse in this stanze, in these rooms where there are many different people and situations that have to do with Italian success in as many different denominations. Also, Dr. Passerini will be honored on October 23rd by the Columbian Foundation for her distinguished career. We're very lucky to have her at Seton Hall, and we're very lucky also that she accepted our invitation to speak to us tonight. And the title of her talk is Hope Amidst the Chaos of the New Migrations to Southern Italy, Principles, Reality, and Trends. There will be at the end a little bit of time for comments and questions, but if you have them, you can also write them on the chat and I'll be happy to read them. But please welcome me, join me in welcoming Dr. Passerini for her talk now. And I pass you the screen again, Dr. Passerini. And I'm gonna mute myself.
Thank you, Gabriela. Before I start, I wanted to disclose that I'm not an expert in the topic that I'm presenting tonight. As Gabriela said, my area of study is in information systems, but tonight I'm talking about immigration and bringing us back to Italian immigrations and current issues with immigration in Italy. I am an immigrant myself, so this topic is very dear to me. And as Gabriela mentioned also, I had the opportunity to also work at other universities. One of them is St. John's University, that informed a lot of my thinking around the role of Catholicism in helping immigrants and providing educational opportunity to immigrants, to the point that it inspired me to work on the project that you will see a little part of it tonight that I worked on with a couple of colleagues from St. John's, as well as my partner in life, who works in a large agency that deals with immigration, but also with a team of colleagues from St. John's University as part of our travel and journey in learning the Vincentian missions and the mission of St. Vincent de Paul, who I think today is the 27th. So today is the festivity of St. Vincent de Paul. So I'm delighted to deliver these few remarks on this particular day. So I'll go in presentation mode and then I look forward to your questions. And if you have questions, just put them in the chat. And Gabriela, if you can help me with the chat at any point, I'm happy to stop. So let's do this for 1 second. I should be hopefully in the right screen. And at this point, can you see the full screen? Yes.
No, we cannot. We only see you.
Oh, you only see me? Okay, so then let me try it again. Screen number 2. Share.
Yes, now yes.
Okay, and now it's in full screen mode, right? You don't see the two.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So we are where we need to be. So you will see immediately, I'm advancing to the second slide, some of my colleagues. I will introduce first Filippo Piscopo and Lorena Luciano. And I wish they could have been here with us tonight, but they couldn't. So they had to promise that they will come to Seton Hall University at a different time and actually provide us with a screening of their documentary. And the documentary recently won an Emmy Award for Best Documentary in Foreign Affairs. And their documentary deals with the topic that we're discussing today, looking at immigration to Southern Italy. Another person that could not be here with us tonight, but that's probably good because he's also my partner in life, is Arturo Pagan, who also has informed a lot of my thinking around immigration, because Arturo works for the United Nations Population Fund, which is an agency of the UN that deals with human rights as well as helping displaced migrants all over the world. So I can't claim that this is my entire work, but certainly it's a pleasure to work with a team like the ones that are here, and I hope that they will come to Seton Hall to also share their views with us in the future. So I'm going to start with a little history, and I apologize if you know this and if it's a repeat, but hopefully we'll put things in context. And the history is the history of the Italian immigration to the United States, because we Italians were immigrants ourselves in the same way that today many Italians are receiving immigrants from all over North Africa. And many Italians came to the US looking for opportunities in different points in time. But if you look at this chart here, and I hope that you can see it in your screen, most of the Italian immigration started happening around 1890. And it was the same time where there was also immigration from Russia and Hungary. And before the 1890s, mostly immigrants were coming from other parts of Europe. So Ireland, Germany, the UK, then we had the Italian immigration, and then other countries such as Mexico, Canada, and if you go all the way to the years 2000, of course, you see a shift in immigration patterns. But what's to note here is between 1870 and 1920, 20 million Europeans arrived in the United States, and many of them were Italians. Now, what happens when you have big flux of immigrants? Certainly things change, and there is unfortunately a phenomenon, which is the same phenomenon that we're experiencing also now in Italy, that sometimes we see the positive impact of immigration, but sometimes you also become scared. In fact, there was a term that was coined at the time, which is called Nativism, which means favoritism towards native-born Americans. And this perception led to anti-immigrant sentiments, to the point that there were different types of interventions that were taken to limit the amount of immigrants that were coming from all over the world, but specifically, as we were discussing before, 1870, 1920, from Europe. But also other parts of the world, especially from China. So in 1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act that limited Chinese immigration until 1943. And what happened to European immigration, there was something that was called the Emergency Quota Act that was passed with the idea of limiting the number, so establishing a quota of the number of immigrants that were coming from countries outside of the US. So that quota was at 3%, but then a little later, in 1984, that quota was actually changed to 2% with a specification. And the specification was, it wasn't 2% as a whole of the total population of immigrants, but 2% of the people from a given country that lived in the United States in 1890. Now, if you remember the first chart, in 1890, we had mostly immigrants from Northern Europe. So this law specifically was looking at slowing down immigration from Southern European countries, as well as Eastern European countries. And this law also barred immigrants from outside of the Western Hemisphere and put an end to Chinese immigration that was happening particularly in California at the time. If you like to learn more about this, these flows of immigrations, it's a fascinating history on history.com. You can actually go online and see all the different waves of immigration over time, including to the most recent changes to immigration laws. What I like to notice, the first one of this history talks about the type of immigrants that were guaranteed or given granted citizenship, and those were white people of good character. So and that was followed by a series of patterns of immigration. The Irish immigration was primarily connected to the famine in Ireland at the time. I want to just make a point about Italian immigration and why Italian immigration started happening in that point in time, and that's connected to the history of Italy. Italy for the longest time was separated in different kingdoms, and then fortunately in 1860 we became a single country, and that unified the North and the South, and the North and the South had been under different dominations. And when Italy became a single country, there was political and social unrest, but also there were higher taxes that were levied from the North to the South. It's a problem that continues today. I think Lucienne said she wants to study Italian tax law and US tax law, and I tell you, good luck, because it's very complex. But some of this taxation and some of these changes and that some of this unrest really pushed people to leave the country. And some of them were looking to leave the country, not forever, but they were hoping to at least come to the US, the land of dreams, for at least for some time, and then make enough money to go back. And in some cases they did that, but they didn't go back with a lot of money. And in some cases they were able to settle in the United States and obviously reach the opportunities that they were looking for. Between 1880 and 1920, 4 million Italians immigrated to the US. How were they welcomed? Well, I think the Italians started to be welcomed a little later. The first immigrants were really immigrants that were living because of poverty, and some of them for opportunities of providing skilled labor during the Industrial Revolution. But they had to face a lot of discrimination. And this is not only typical of the US, as I said, this happens in Europe, unfortunately, also today. But these are some of the images that come from Northern Europe. This is from Germany, 1958. And if you look at this window, it says access prohibited to all Italians. And this is another picture from Belgium. A lot of Italians from Southern Italy were and also from Northern Italy were immigrating during the period of 1945, 1960 to Belgium to work in the mines. And this says access interdit aux chiens et aux Italiens, which means access denied to dogs and Italian. So unfortunately, they suffered a lot of discrimination in Europe and also in the US. This is a cartoon from the period that shows the boat arriving from Europe, and so directly from the slums of Europe daily. And then what you see is a lot of little hats with mafia, socialism, and et cetera, et cetera. So there was this fear of the immigrants coming and taking positions and jobs that had been acquired locally. And you might be familiar with lynching pictures like the one that you see here in 1910 Tampa. Those are 2 Italian workers that were lynched apparently because they were crumiri. Crumiri in Italian means people that when there is a strike, they decide not to strike. They probably went back to work even if other laborers in the tobacco plant that they were working in decided to strike because they had to probably feed their family, so they were lynched. And then I'm sure you're familiar with the story of Sacco and Vanzetti, where unfortunately wrongly accused of a killing, and they were put to death, even if they had nothing to do with the killing. But this was a very important change in the perception and the role of Italians in the US, because it really started putting attention on discrimination and empowered a lot of Italian Americans to start reacting to discrimination. And in fact, I think this is a very, very powerful quote that I wanted to read to you, that the agony that Sacco and Vanzetti had to experience was in fact their triumph. It made them famous and started raising awareness of the need for change. So Bartolomeo Vanzetti writes, if it had not been for these things, I might have lived out my life talking at street corners to scorning men. I might have died unmarked, unknown, a failure. Now we're not a failure. This is our career and our triumph. Never in our full life could we hope to do such work for tolerance, for justice, for men's understanding of men, as now we do by accident. Our words, our lives, our pain, nothing. The taking of our lives, lives of a good showmaker and a poor fish peddler, all that last moment belongs to us, and the agony is our triumph. And we start seeing after 1927 a shift in the way Italians are treated. They start having different positions in society. They start getting better jobs, and then fundamentally we start seeing a movement up in society. And we also start seeing different types of immigrants coming to the US. There are different waves of immigration after the aftermath of the First World War, Second World War, up to the recent immigration that it's immigration that is happening for studying and career opportunity. I wanted to bring us back now for a second to why am I telling you all of this, and how do I bring it back to us being at a Catholic institution, and what are the principles that, especially in a Catholic institution, we're proud to follow. First of all, I'd like to remember we're all immigrants. Myself, I'm an immigrant. Gabriella, you're an immigrant. And many of you, if you're not directly an immigrant, your parents were immigrants before us. And what's really important to remember is that the church in Italy that plays a significant role, especially with its attention to Catholic social teaching, to drive our concept and our understanding of social inclusion, and why it's really important to be welcoming to the stranger and to immigrants, and to respect them for their humanity. I know this is easier said when we are at the borders of the immigration. Oftentimes I talk with my colleagues and friends in Rome that are always complaining about how Rome has changed because of the large volume of immigration. And I feel like that I'm maybe looking at this from the lenses of somebody that is not on site. But I also think that despite all of the changes, despite of all the difficulties of dealing with very large influx of immigration, fundamentally what we carry as Italian is, thanks to our culture and orientation due to our moral compass that has been based on the fact that we are primarily a Catholic country, is really this attention to social inclusion. I want to point out these two beautiful monasteries here. This is the town where my parents are from. It's about 50 miles from Rome, and it's called Subiaco, and it's well known because of these two beautiful monasteries that I hope that when you do a next study abroad tour to Italy, and Rome, you will have an opportunity to visit. So let me just say, connect our Catholicity and Catholic social teaching to our diversity, equity, and inclusion. If we look at principles in Catholic social teaching, such as integral ecology, social justice, human development, and human dignity, we actually see that Catholic social teaching leads and overlaps with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So if you're a Catholic, you're naturally focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. as part of your being. So I wanted to quote the Association for Catholic Colleges and Universities that published a statement in 2017 that says, a Catholic university celebrates the value of diversity within Catholic higher education. We affirm our commitment of our institutions to creative, inclusive, welcoming campus environments that embrace people of all faiths and culture. Catholic higher education was founded precisely to serve the children of Catholic immigrants who, in their own time, were excluded from higher education. And this is a legacy that we proudly pledge to continue. This is how St. John's was founded, but this is also how Elizabeth Ann Seton founded the system of Catholic schooling in the US to provide an education to those who were not immediately able to afford other institutions, and especially higher education in New York City. Those who couldn't get into Columbia started going to, for example, to St. John's, and were primarily the Italian, the Irish, and the Jews. So what beliefs in the Catholic tradition support inclusivity and equity? John Paul XXIII talks about that the fact that every person has value. And we also know that UN Declaration on Human Rights says the same. And so what the Catholic social teaching tells us is that we have intrinsic value, not just because of what we produce, our productivity, the fact that we're good. I applaud all of the students who are here and capable, and they're doing their best to succeed, but our dignity really comes from the fact that we're born. Our rights do not depend on any of our abilities, but they're really intrinsic. Independent of merit, and they cannot be taken away. That's the principle of human dignity. And also with Pope Francis, this principle has actually been expanded into the notion of authentic human development and integral ecology, which means not only looking at people, but also how people connect with the environment and how we are part of the same as the environment. In fact, if as I said, we won't be able to see Filippo and Lorena's documentary, but there is one passage, if you're able, I think it's still streaming in HBO Max. So if you're subscribed to HBO Max, you can stream the documentary. There is a point in that documentary where the Ministry of Immigration in Italy, herself from Africa, tells to a crowd of very upset Italians that are continuing to receive boatloads of immigrants. She tells them the land is for everybody. La terra è di tutti. She shouts that to remind that there is that connection of ourselves with the environment, and we need to continue to push for justice beyond the borderlands. So the conclusion to this that I wanted to make is that for a Catholic institution of higher education, inclusivity is a moral imperative. So I'm delighted that we have a strategic plan that in goal number 4 talks about diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it actually actualizes what we believe fundamentally as part of a Catholic institution of higher education. Now, leaving the principles, I wanted to go back a little bit on what's happening in Italy today and show some parallels with what happened in the US a long time ago, and how unprepared Southern Italy, but Europe as a whole, were from this wave of immigration, because the patterns that we see now and that we've been seeing in Europe are patterns that the US experienced much earlier, and so had to build structures to control and monitor them or deal with them a lot earlier than European countries. A lot of the current migration patterns are really coming from countries in Africa that are trying to find their way to Europe, not necessarily to Italy, although some of the immigrants stay in Italy, but they're really trying from Somalia to Sudan, Egypt, Nigeria, Mali, to find their way through the coast, coming to Italy and then finding a way to new opportunities where there is work. And sometimes don't stay in Italy because unemployment rate in Italy is extremely high. So unless you're part of the government system, it's very difficult to find jobs. So that's why they stay only for the time that they need to then leave for other parts of Europe. If you look at the migration patterns between 2009 and 2018, almost 2 million immigrants arrived in Europe. And the peak was in 2015 on 1.8 million from all of the countries that you saw in the prior slide. And then after that started declining because Europe started enacting some forms of control on immigration, similar to what you saw in the US, the Quota Act. There was a similar intervention in various countries in Europe to try to deal with this very large flow of migrants. Particularly, most of the migrants come from sub-Saharan countries and go to 4 main European countries like Portugal, Italy, France, and the UK. But one of the issues that I wanted to bring to your attention is the issue of the unaccompanied minors, because if we follow also the Declaration of Human Rights, particular attention, especially with the United Nations Population Fund and other UN agencies such as UNHCR and UNICEF, their big focus is on minors that are being transferred either with their parents, so they follow their parents and they're still minors, or on their own, they're sent to countries in look of new opportunities. So youth migration in Italy between 2014 and 2018 was about 625,000 refugees, and of those 70,000 were unaccompanied minors. And many of them, 92.5%, were males between 15 and 17 years old, coming from Egypt, Eritrea, Gambia, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Senegal, and Mali. And in most of the cases, they went to destinations such as Sicily, Lazio, which is where Rome is located, Emilia-Romagna, the capital there is Bologna, and Lombardy, with Milan, an opportunity to work in northern Italy. This is similar to some migration patterns that we also see in the US. Number of migrant children that we see coming from Mexico and Southern America as recently as well. And the problem of obviously unaccompanied minors is something that we're all concerned about. The reason why we are really concerned about children is because unfortunately they migrate and at a very difficult period in times between 15 and 17-year-old, especially for the males, and you saw that many of those who migrate are males. It's a time where they're also moving from children to becoming adolescents to becoming men, and so they deal with their own set of issues, not only biologically but also psychologically, and then they deal with the trauma of migration. They come because they are looking for better opportunities for an education. Some of them, especially women that immigrate, they are looking for escaping sometimes early marriage, family abuse or violence, except that what happens is during the migration, they themselves, the women, are unfortunately subject to abuse and violence. Sometimes they're looking to reunite with the family, start a new family, or sometimes they're just escaping whatever situation they're dealing with. So as I mentioned before, this is a very difficult period in time, and one that really requires attention of several organizations, not only those of the countries that receive the immigrants, but also larger international organizations that fortunately are doing a lot, although not enough, to deal with some of the aftermath of the migration patterns. So UNICEF, UNHCR, which is the agency for the refugees, IOM, which is the UN Agency for Migrations. All of them are obviously have locations, and that's why Rome, for example, has 3 major UN agencies located in Rome to really deal with a lot of the immigration and issues connected to migrants from Africa. Some initiatives that UNFPA, for example, is doing directly in partnership with UNICEF is to support women that during this transfer are in fact attacked. They might be themselves violated, or they might lose precious time to learn and to develop. So what UNFPA does in collaboration with UNICEF, they work with the Italian what we call consultori, which are free healthcare organizations where any migrant, but especially women who experiences any type of abuse can find support. And other types of support is also support in education. So finding an opportunity for anybody to continue to have access to schooling, even as the way to be admitted in the country that they migrate to. We have a video here. I will not be able, I won't even try to play it because usually that doesn't work very well on Zoom, and we're already on video ourselves, but I'm happy to share the slides and you can look at the video by yourself. It explains a specific Italian law that it obliges the Italian government to provide for any child between the age of 15 to 18, so until they become maggiorenni, so until they reach 18-year-old, and if they're able to get a job or a tirocinio, the opportunity to do an internship and to learn skills on, for example, restaurant cooking or any other types of skills during this period, they are automatically guaranteed support until they are 21 years old. They're placed with a family. They are sent to give an opportunity to go to schooling, and then they obtain a work permit. So they don't have any legal status anymore, but there is this extra form of protection exactly for minors that the government has put in place. Now, this seems beautiful, and if you look at the video, it works very well. The reality is that it's all based on also volunteers who try to become legal guardian and foster family for a lot of these immigrant families. So that makes it a little difficult because people are not paid to do that, but it also we see, at least from the reports that we've seen, is that there is a lot of commitment on the general population to also help some of those children, especially because, as I said before, of this long tradition of inclusion and helping others that is part of the culture of most of the country. As I mentioned before, it's a difficult time that the immigrants have to go through, but it's also an opportunity to also encounter people that will take care of them, either because they volunteer or because we have a legal system that supports them. And so while what I presented here paints a picture of difficulty, I'd like to leave you with the link, even if we're not reviewing it today, to Filippo and Lorena's documentary, because their analysis creates hope amidst the chaos of immigration. What you see in the documentary is really the aftermath of a big tragedy in southern Italy. A boat was close to Lampedusa, and that unfortunately was a big naufragio. The boat disappeared, and over 300 people were lost at sea, which is a common event. Unfortunately, we're trying to reach Italy from the sea. So the documentary starts with a very sad scene of a lot of graves and a lot of people crying, but it also shows the travel of two immigrants, one from Syria and one from Eritrea, that are able, in fact, to build and to find support from all the families that they interact with, and also they find support in a little village called Riace, where the mayor of the city is well known for having started an experiment of welcoming immigrants, because the city was dying. The city of Riace in Calabria was dying. And what it did is he actually called to receive funding to host immigrants that then became over 1/3 of the population of the village. And if the immigrants had not populated this village, the village would have disappeared, because the population was getting older. The schools were closing because there were no kids left. And so this new influx of immigrants actually restarted the economy of that little village. And so the hope in the middle of this chaos is that if we start looking at immigration with a slightly different lens, especially in a country like Italy, that right now has over 60 million people, and by the year 2050 is forecasted to have 54 million people in terms of Italian population, because the birth rate, the natality rate of women is about 1.3, which is not enough for the reproduction of the country. So what you see as hope amidst this chaos is this opportunity of welcoming the immigrants to rebuild an economy, and also provide support through our social system of support that I described before, but also to receiving it back by young labor that comes and provides services that but frankly, Italians don't want to do anymore. So I think what you would see in the documentary is a story that, while it's painful, while the people who have to accept this chaos when a new boat with immigrants arrives are affected and influenced by the tragedy that all of this brings, in the long run, it's an overall opportunity for growth, both for the immigrants as well as for the local population. So I think this is my last slide, and I'll stop sharing to open it up for questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Passerini. You gave us much food for thought. Thank you for reminding us some important facts about migration. Too often we think in terms of numbers rather than human stories. Migrants are not just people trying to cross the border, but they come with a story often of suffering. And also, thank you for reminding us also the word Catholic comes from Greek, and it means inclusive, universal. And that's something also that is important to keep in mind. I also wanted, I also was really struck by, it was so pleasant to hear talk about the volunteers in Italy, because often you hear only the people complaining, those are the more that they scream, they're louder, but there are a lot of people who put a lot of their time and money as volunteers, but work in silence, helping others. And their stories also are not often heard as loudly as others. So we hope that we'll be able to bring a screening of the film here on campus. Not sure whether it's happening in the fall or the spring, but I think that would be also wonderful. It's it would be a real honor for us to have it, given also the acclaim that has received. It would be nice to have the directors and talk to us and explain a little bit how the video the documentary came about, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for bringing all that to us.
Yeah, and I would like to share one thing about the volunteering, because I showed Subiaco, the town where my parents are from. In Subiaco, there is a very, very dear friend of my grandma, who spent her entire life volunteering to cook food for immigrants that are coming, and obviously the church becomes the social structure to which everyone goes when they need support. And her life mission has been to cook for others. So what I want to say is that this relationship is really a duality of a relationship. We give as well as we receive, because the fact that we're giving to others is really what fulfills the life of many of those who volunteer, and there is a true recognition that it's also, you know, a service and it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. You know, my first job in Italy, the very, very first job was, well, as a volunteer. I taught Italian to migrants for Caritas in the late 80s, early 90s. And that's where my teaching career started, really. So I'm very aware of a lot of these things. But any comments, questions, ideas you'd like to share?
Yes. Hello, Professor.
Yes, go ahead, Mark Anthony.
Madam Provost, it was a very good presentation, and it's a very important issue. As you know, we here in Seton Hall, maybe some people want to get involved with the Timothy and Rosemary Mirabella at the Center for Community Engagement. We're working on a immigration advocacy project in producing a short film and infomercial with the Archdiocese to show the greatness of immigration and the great things we did in the past and some of the bad things that happened. But now we're in a terrible situation. And it's become, you know what the problem is? It's become politicized and it's polarized the nation. And that's the problem. This is a moral issue. It should be separate of politics. Please, what do you think, Madam Provost?
No, that's why there is that section where I talk about the moral imperative and remember who we are and where we come from, because unfortunately, and that's not, I know you mentioned the US, it's been polarized and politicized also in Italy. Unfortunately, it's the left and right dilemma. And it's very interesting because if you look at the Italian Constitution 1948, the principles of the Italian constitutions are the ones of common good, right? So in fact, also education, healthcare, those are common good by principles, because there is a belief that we need to provide for others independent of the means that people have, right? So if that's a principle that I put together the country, that's a fundamental belief that should go beyond political parties. And yet it becomes the way in which you can obtain votes, because you'll find and you play, you know, around those who are unhappy, because certainly there is concern of use of resources or deployment of resources, but then it becomes polarized in the same way that it's becoming polarized in the US, and we forget what our foundational principles were, and when we remember those, we should try to find the solution to these problems rather than trying to you know, continue to separate each other around those issues, because fundamentally, as you said, and it is a moral imperative.
Any other comments or questions? Don't be shy, students.
I see Bill as a comment.
There we go. If I could just say, I was impressed by the emphasis on allowing the immigrants to engage and better themselves, to understand that they have strengths and skills to offer, instead of treating them as passive. Numbers was the word that was just used, but instead of treating them as like passive baggage or just a plain mass or matter, to realize that they themselves have aspirations, goals that need to be encouraged. And brought that out really nice, very nicely.
Yeah, no, in fact, that law talks about tirocinio. That's the kids have to go through. And in fact, unfortunately, if they don't get an opportunity to do a tirocinio, the internship or stage, how we will call it here, then that extension to 21 years old and worker permits does not apply to them. But the whole purpose of that is, as Bill, as you're saying, is learning the skills. So some of the videos that you will see, the link to that, and also in the documentary, is learning how to cook, learning how to do jobs that, quite frankly, let's recognize it, it's very difficult to also find support for. For example, one of the biggest issues that we currently have in Italy is the aging of the population and the difficulty to find a support structure for the elderly. On one side, fortunately, we have a very strong family structure and social systems where the elderly are taken care of by the families. But one of the typical job of immigrants is really being la badante, right? The one who's taking care of the elderly. And fortunately, there is a very strong support structure when you have those positions, because the law requires that anyone who does this type of work not only is recognized, legalized, but they also have their pension taken care of from their employers, which usually are independent family that need their services. So it's not a social system that tends to give to everyone indiscriminately. They still want you to learn and to realize your potential, which quite frankly, most of the immigrants, that's what they want to do. It's only when desperation kicks in that then we see the decay, but most of them, they're really there to be productive members of society.
Any other person? George, Professor George?
Yes, well,
who might also enlighten us on the meaning of Catholic, since he's a professor of Greek.
yes, I appreciate hearing the Greek there, Katholikos, universal. Yes, I'm a professor of Greek literature and history, but also I'm a Greek heritage myself. In Greece, we have similar we have a similar situation involving immigration. Many immigrants coming to Greece and government society trying to come to terms how to handle this migration. But I really enjoyed your talk, especially because I believe it's important to think of what a boon immigration is to these countries, not just in the present, but if you look at their past, the way these cultures were developed. Modern Greek culture is a mix between ancient Greek culture and Roman culture, Byzantine Roman, the Venetians, the Franks, and the Ottomans. And so over the course of history, this is how a culture develops. And so we can see this as a new way for these cultures to develop and to flourish. One of the most prominent Greeks today, to all of you sports fans, especially basketball fans, is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was born in Nigeria.
Brothers.
And his brothers, yes, and his brothers, Costa, and which is my name in Greek, and I can't remember the other one. But yeah, his brothers, they were selling wares on the street, you know, looked down upon by many people, but the village priest and many people took care of the kids and gave them the opportunity to practice their skills with basketball and to be well fed, etc. And they really are now global ambassadors for Greece in the current day. And you know, my heart wells up when I see all the support from people in Greece when they post on social media or in other venues. So definitely, while there are realistic concerns about how to manage large movements of people in a way that's sustainable to the immigrants and to the people in the country, I think if we think positively in this way, as you've laid out, Dr. Passerini, great things will come.
Thank you. I see also Ines wanted to, Ines, Professor Murzako in Catholic Studies. Thank you, Charles.
Yes, I really enjoyed the presentation, and quite honestly, Katya, I didn't know that you are interested in immigration. This topic
yes,
is very
I had to disclaimer, this is not my area of study, but it's my passion because of obviously
of course,
my heritage.
Yeah, of course. No, it's a fascinating topic actually, and extremely pleased that you mentioned Subiaco actually and monasticism, because it's a monastic value, if you will, hospitality. So telling you the story of your aunt, that worked in Subiaco. I was very happy to hear Pope Francis, because of course, you know, Pope Francis has identified himself very much with the newcomers, with the immigrants, you know, to Italy, because he himself is an immigrant. And also Pope Francis, his first visit within Italy was in Lampedusa, which he gave a very strong message that, yes, this is, you know, there is a value to this, to these people. They are people after all, and they come to add value to our country, not to subtract value. And at the same time, Pope Francis has written a lot, and one of his theology is the theology of the peripheries. And who are the peripherals? These immigrants, you know, are part of these peripherals, of these marginal people who, in fact, they have a lot to give to the society. And look at Jesus himself. He makes a very strong theological point, because Jesus came from Nazareth, from this, you know, city that was not, you know, what good can come from Nazareth? And yes, salvation, you know, in theological terms, came from this. So it's a very powerful theology, and at the same time as a topic that we all can contribute with our stories of immigration. And Italy actually is called, and it has a lot of story on immigration, on populating these villages. Riace, yes, the Bronzi di Riace are fantastic, but there is more to the Bronze, yeah. So that's thank you very much, you know, for this wonderful presentation. I learned a lot, and you know, you never know, we might compare the notes some days.
Fantastic.
That's great. I see Doug as well, and then this is going to be the last one, because I think we're getting 7:30. Go ahead, Doug. Oh, we lost you.
Now we got it. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, just to build off Inez's comment on the peripherals, this is more just a comment for the students that are on the call, and when they're engaging, because they're mentioning going to study abroad, Italy is an incredibly wonderful country to explore, but a lot of times what ends up happening for tourists is that, and travelers, we only explore the centers of cities. We only explore, you know, the Trevi Fountain and such. And, you know, it's really important for the students who are on this call who are about to maybe venture into Italy or Rome or whatever the city might be. Using Rome as an example, 96% of that population lives outside the Aurelian walls. And if you want to get in touch with immigrant populations, you're not going to really be in contact around Piazza Navona or, you know, the Pantheon. Some of my students at my previous institutions' greatest joys were sitting down to a Ecuadorian dinner in Pineto, which you wouldn't even think of existing in Rome. So it's really important to have that multiplicity. And also, I just want to make a comment to Dr. Passerini's talk that I really appreciated the push factors that she talked about when it came to Italian immigration, which I think is overlooked. A lot of times it's oversimplified as being, you know, oh, they're just poor migrants from the South going to America. But it's really important to understand that government policies in Italy made this an exasperating factor for Italians to leave. So whether you're talking about the French tariff war of the late 19th century, the taxation she was talking about, the Banca Romana scandals of the late 19th century, there's a lot of financial and political decisions that were made that pushed Italians away from that, and they voted with their feet in many, in much regard. So that's really important when we talk about migration today, that it's not just the pull, but the push that's occurring in these countries that we need to discuss, which is important. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Okay, so we're going to close here. And just very briefly, Christian, are you still there? Christian Pulowski, one of our students just wanted to give some final remarks. Are you there, Christian?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, all right. So go ahead and then we conclude today's.
Okay, this is more in reference to the beginning of this event before the presentation. But as someone who grew up as an Italian, in an Italian and Argentinian household, I'm very prideful about my culture. My nonno and nonna were born and raised in Italy, and my mother was born in the United States, but practically grew up in Italy. So I've been surrounded by Italian culture my entire life, and I feel like I've truly learned what it means to be an Italian. It's a lot more than just the music and the food, but it's a way of life that's deeply rooted in its culture and friendships. Since this summer, I've been working as a Peace and Dialogue officer at the Sant'Egidio Foundation for Peace and Dialogue under Dr. Andrea Bartoli. And I feel grateful for this Italian Studies program at Seton Hall, as I've tremendously improved in my writing and communication skills, which proved very useful in my position. I look forward to continuing to hone my Italian skills and knowledge and completing my Italian Studies minor, which I declared today as well. As a diplomacy and international relations major, I hope to work for an Italian-based NGO, such as the Sant'Egidio Foundation for Peace and Dialogue. And I also hope to have the opportunity to study abroad in Rome. This scholarship will truly help me and my family a lot with tuition costs next semester. So thank you, Dr. Tarte, for your support in making the scholarship possible. And thank you also to the rest of the donors and professors for your support and all that you do. And Forza l'Italia.
Sempre.
Well, on this note, I think we really need to close, but it's a wonderful note. Thank you, Christian, for your comments. We are lucky to have students like you who make us feel also part of something. We're all making efforts in different ways, but we are really all in love with Italy, and that's wonderful. So have a wonderful evening, everyone, and hope to see you at our next event, which is October 18th. That was going to be about, it's a new book on Montessori, Maria Montessori, and I hope that you will be able to join us. You'll receive announcements and all that, but put it down on your calendar, October 18th. Thanks again for coming and have a wonderful evening. Buona serata a tutti. Arrivederci.
Ciao,
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 grazie.
Bye, ciao.
Ciao, grazie.